start also the recording for this webinar. So that's just one thing we were supposed to say at the beginning. So we're doing it so now. And yeah, the recording is on. Okay, so again, hi everyone. So as EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, the policy area tourism coordinator, I would like to give a little bit of overview on what we're doing and how tourism and cycling tourism cycling tourism is a part of our work within our policy area. And just to set the scene, and to those who are not aware, in EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, we have 14 key areas where we concentrate the whole cooperation around the Baltic Sea region for all the 8 countries around the Baltic Sea region. And one of these 14 areas is tourism. And the whole goal of cooperation within the policy area tourism is to create a strong platform for all types of tourism stakeholders working around the Baltic Sea so that they can create new networks, work together, create some topic-related initiatives, activities, project activities, and so on and so forth. Like, for instance, this project that we are finalizing soon, and who's the reason for this webinar. This was also one of the activities that is done between partners coming from countries around the Baltic Sea. So the role of policy area tourism is to a little bit coordinate, enhance, make sure that the projects and people working within them work together, know about each other, so on and so forth. And our policy area has the action plan. And the 3 key actions that we concentrate on are very much linked with the topic of cycling tourism, but also rural cycling tourism. And these actions are transnational tourism development in remote and rural areas. We also concentrate on investing in people, skills, and technology in the tourism industry. And when we think about the cycling tourism, it could be, for instance, the development of different apps that are useful for people who cycle along the EuroVelo 10 route that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And the third action is the protection and sustainable utilization of cultural heritage and natural resources in tourism destinations. As we are all aware, Baltic Sea region is ideally located because we have the white sandy beaches, we have beautiful water, we have a lot of nature-based sites, we have dunes, forests, a lot of great places where you can also activate biking tourism. And if talking today about the cycling tourism, if we think about like the definition, I just wanted to give this one slide because it was kind of interesting to me that at first I came by the definition that was any travel related activity for the purpose of pleasure, which incorporates a bicycle. And this definition is a bit closer to my heart and the way I'm active as a cycling tourist myself. But for instance, we know that the German National Cyclists Association defines the cycling tourism as someone who has gone to at least one trip lasting at least 3 nights in the past 3 years. And this was something that we came across, and this is coming from one of the reports that I've read just recently to check the data about the cycling tourism around the Baltic Sea in general. So as you can see, even within our region, different countries, they have different levels of development. They have even different definition of what is cycling tourism within the BSR. Which just proves the point that there is even a bigger need for joint cooperation, discussion, and seeing how we can all go together with the development of the cycling tourism in general. And of course, when we think about cycling tourism, then we talk about different types of bicycle travel, like if you organize them independently, if you go on a multi-day bicycle tour, and this type of a tour could be like, for instance, long distance trail along the EuroVelo 10 route, which goes all around the Baltic Sea region. It could be taking part in different types of events, so organized rides, tours, and races. And the example that we came across here was the Vattenrunden in Sweden, which is like this biggest cycling event that is organized in Sweden for many years now. There is, of course, the destination riding, and these are the rides centered around a particular destination or some niche attraction. And in here, this could be rock mountain biking. It could be also bike tours organized around some wine country or wineries. And I know that in our area, we're hearing even more and more that the niche attraction that could be interesting for some one-day cycling tours are, for instance, the cultural heritage attractions that are a target for cycling tourism in some rural areas. And of course, we can have just a day rides and urban cycling, which is very familiar to me, as I said, but also to the region where I come from. So Pomorskie region, we have a lot of tourists that come to cycle for one day, a few hours. Sometimes they stay for longer trips with overnights, but quite often it's just one day ride that they organize. And then, as I already said, when it comes to cycling tourism in our region, we don't really have any data that is talking about the whole region, the Baltic Sea region, as one destination for cycling tourism. Even though we do have this EuroVelo 10 route, we don't really have the data about the whole route. More like we have the data coming from different countries around the Baltic Sea region. And for instance, one of the recent data comes from Germany. So this is the study that was conducted last year. So these are very recent data. And I just wanted to show these two charts here because I found them quite interesting. First, when you think about the motivation, so why people decide to go on a cycling trip. And of course, the majority of us would like to see more of a country events people and be more active while on holiday. And this is very typical also to those, I would say, new cycling tourism that came just after the pandemics because, well, they wanted to go outside because we all needed that. They wanted to spend time on the nature, yes, being active outside their home, but they also wanted to see a little bit of nearby, a little bit of their own country instead of going to these long distance holidays that used to be so popular before the pandemics. First, it was not possible to many to travel long distance. And second, we've learned to appreciate even more what we have in nearabouts. And the second information that I found interesting was the information sources. So where people look for information when they plan their day cycling trips or even few-day cycling trips. And of course, there is no surprise here that internet is the #1 information source, but they're also being developed and already use many apps for smartphones, tablets, smartwatches. We also talk with our friends and we get recommendations from them. And all this information that we have in this chart just proves that there is still a big need for more information about tourism possibilities around the Baltic Sea, but also where we should put this information so that people actually use them and they are visible to them. So just these two examples to show you. In general, when we think about cycling in rural areas, there are like just few, I would say, general sentences here on this slide, because we talk about the shorter distances, we talk about importance of having less environmental impact. We often emphasize that it's quality over quantity when it comes to tourism visits, and I would agree with all of that. And cycling tourism is very much connected with sustainable tourism, and this is the absolute it topic when it comes to tourism in the Baltic Sea region. We label ourselves as a region for sustainable tourism, for green tourism, climate-friendly tourism. So cycling tourism goes in line with all that and should be probably appreciated even more and maybe developed even more within our region. Obviously, cycling tourism has a very positive impact on local economy in rural areas, because usually cycle tourists, they get away from these traditional mass tourism destinations. They want to see the rural area. They want to empower them with some economic benefits that comes with these day tours or multi-day tours. So there is a great also socio-economic impact when we talk about cycling in rural areas. And of course, not to mention, bicycling tourism is the most effective green and economical solution to tackle insufficient connectivity within rural areas, because, well, maybe that's not the case to all BSR countries, but there are still countries with less developed transport routes when it comes to rural areas. And that's when cycling tourism comes in with, being a great answer to it. And I've been already mentioning a few times the EuroVelo 10 route. I think that many of you who are watching us today are familiar with it, but just to emphasize and to say a few words. So the EuroVelo 10 route, this is also called Baltic Sea route or Hansa Circuit. And this route goes all around the Baltic Sea. So if you think about the macro-regional dimension of tourism cooperation that I deal with in my daily job, then EuroVelo 10 is the perfect example of a cycling tourism possibility where all the countries need to work together, because all of us are equally interested in developing this route and making sure that the tourists are aware of it and they use it and they cycle along the route, and not only within the route in our region, in our country, but also that they cycle all around the route, which means going from Poland to Lithuania, via Latvia to Estonia, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and Germany. So all around the EuroVelo 10 route. And when it comes to the route itself, even though it's beautiful and there are absolutely many great places to see and visit when you cycle along it, the problem is that there is still uneven and fragmented development of the route. So it's more like each region, each country concentrates on their own parts of the route. And we see that there is the lack of trans-Baltic cooperation amongst regions and kind of fragmented cooperation when it comes to also to transport possibilities and links, shortages on the route, so on and so on. And this also results in limited information on the current opportunities for transport along the route, and also for opportunities for intermodal transport. So if, let's say, a tourist would be interested in taking a ferry from Gdynia to Karlskrona, he can, of course, take a bike and then he can cycle around along the EuroVelo 10 route in southern Sweden. But we see that there is still a lot to be done when it comes to advertising this as an offer to cycling tourism. And like, for instance, there is no specific infrastructure in ports. There is no possibility sometimes to take a train on a bus, to take a bike on a bus or a train, and so on and so forth. So there are still many challenges and things that could be done. And so there are challenges and there are the needs that we see, and the need would be to improve cooperation of Baltic Sea regional actors on all levels. So like macro-regional level, national, regional, but also the ones coming from municipalities. They should all try to work together on the even development of EuroVelo 10, because this in general will give a great benefits to the cycling tourism in the Baltic Sea region as a whole. There is possibility in some countries to roll out some bike-friendly services, because when the route is already well developed, now the tourists will need some additional services along the route. There is also a need to create new products and offers for customers around the EuroVelo 10. So even though some countries are very well developed when it comes to their offer, this offer is usually just limited to their region or their country. You can't really find many offers where you can cycle from one country to another along the EuroVelo 10 route and have the same offer, the same possibilities for this cycling adventure. This all calls also for joint marketing and making sure that people are actually aware that the Baltic Sea cycle route is here, that it goes around whole Baltic Sea, and that there is a great chance to go and visit different countries of the Baltic Sea region on a bike and have this great tourism experience. And this is something that I hope that policy area tourism will now work on quite closely in the upcoming years. If you haven't had a chance to see our work as policy area tourism, you can follow us on the social media, and we will make sure to talk more about the cycling tourism in the upcoming events and meetings. And also we support projects who work with this cycling tourism offer. So there is a lot to come. And just one event that is going to happen in fall this year. This will be the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum that we're organizing on 11th of October in Tallinn in Estonia. And the general topic would be the green tourism and best practices coming from BSR. And if we talk green tourism and sustainable tourism, then as I already said, there is a space also to discuss the cycling tourism. So if you are interested in developing the cycling tourism possibilities within the Baltic Sea region, if you think that this is a topic for you to seek for new partners, new initiatives, to get some inspiration, then you are all very welcome to join us for the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum. And I guess this is it from me. I hope I didn't talk too much.
That's all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Magda. Yes, I think we will sum up the questions for there will be sort of a panel discussion in the end. So please, if you have a question, save it and we'll take it in a bit. Now I will leave the screen and the audio and screen to Camilla from Visit Åland. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. I will try to share my screen.
Can we hear you?
Don't hear me? Yes? Okay, fine. I want to share my screen. Okay, where is the... Mm-hmm. I had my presentation there last time I looked, but now it's gone. Let's see if I work this out.
All right.
I haven't. That it gave a new try. It's typical. There. Now.
Perfect.
So, can you see? Can you see the screen? Hello, my presentation. Can you see it?
No,
yes, I can see it.
I can't hear you.
Can't you hear me?
I can hear you and see your presentation at least over here.
Okay.
I can also see it.
Okay. Is there somebody else who has problem to hearing me?
No, sorry, it was me. Now we can hear you.
Okay, then we start. Okay. Hello, and thanks again to invited me to this webinar. My name is Camilla Sommarström, and I'm working as a destination developer at Visit Åland in Mariehamn. So I will give you a short presentation about cycle tourism in Åland. And I don't know if, this is a map of Åland. I don't know if all of you have been to Åland. And when I looked at Magda's map in the earlier presentation, it was funny to see in the EuroVelo 10 that the Åland is the little spot between Finland and Sweden that we have to link together with this EuroVelo 10. And I can see that just to hop on and hop off the islands. So yes, this is just all the islands. I just shortly give a I don't know if you know the Visit Åland organization, but shortly we are a member organization for the tourist sector, 250 members. And our mission is destination marketing. It's like 80% of our organization. We focus on destination marketing, destination development, and that's me. And then we have tourist information. Today we have 12 employees, and many of us are working with different kinds of projects. We are financed at tax funds, member fees, and also collaboration with the travel companies when you do the marketing campaigns and so on, and the city of Mariehamn and also European projects. Our main website is visitåland.com. It's our main channel. There we have information, and there you can also have, the travel companies have bookable packages through a platform called City Break. Right now, currently we are planning or we're working with a new tourist strategy of Åland, who will head it until 2030 and will be ready in fall. The main markets for us is Finland and Sweden, and now during the COVID has been more Finland because it was close to Sweden, but we struggle with these markets in very small budget actually. And international market is Germany, but it's very small part, and it's a collaboration with Visit Finland. And the main reasons to visit Åland is the closeness to the sea and the nature of archipelago. That's the main reason why people visit Åland in all kinds of surveys we have done through the years. So about cycle tourism, I can say that Åland is maybe little, what do you call it, immature. We have a lot of things to do, and it was inspiring to listen to Magda's presentation because we have a lack of data and so on. I will come to that. But we have the most attractive from the mainland Finland. They go through their archipelago ferries from the mainland and come to Åland. And Finland just has termed as a cycling paradise for many years, as a big interest. The cycling is very important for the Åland brand, and especially for the outdoor life, because outdoor life is something that we are marketing a lot. And there is cycling one share with fishing, golfing, hiking, and so on. So cycling is in the outdoor life sector. We have a good infrastructure. I will mention, tell me a little bit about that in next slide. And the common target group for cyclists have been families with children, because it's pretty family friendly to cycle on Åland, and also couples. And in the last years, there was a company who called Åland Events, who have been arranged different cycling events every year and try to reach out to that target group too. We have this one tour, Archipelago, who's coming up here this fall in September. They are bicycle around the Åland, 170 kilometers altogether. But we have also the reason maybe Åland haven't cycling like a priority is we have a lack of statistics, the importance of the cycling tourism, and also we don't have any strategy for how to work with cycling tourism. Actually, it often goes under the outdoor life health simply, and also that we have vague development in productization and bookable cycling packages. So there is a lot of things to do in that part. Cycling infrastructure, small distance, of course, we are a small island. The longest from north to south is 50 kilometers. But we have a total of 912 kilometer common road, and we have 30 bridges. So it's very nice to bicycle from the island to island, actually. And about the infrastructure, also with this, we have built the recent 15 years, expanded pedestrian and cycle path along the main roads. In Åland, we have 4 main roads, north, south, west, and east. And along these main roads, they have built pedestrian and cycle paths. So it would be safe to don't have to bicycle on the main road. So that's a good development, and it's continue. So the goal is that all the main roads all the way to the different harbors should have this cycle path. Then we also have signposted cycle path. That's a picture down there. It's a sign that you can go from the main roads to smaller roads, that you can experience the landscape, and it's like not more traffic. It's the way to experience Åland in another way. And then we have 1 bicycle ferry that's only during the high season to connect some of the islands. We have 3 bicycle ferries many years ago, but it's hard to get economic in that company. And then we have also the archipelago ferries between Åland and Finland, who is very important for the bicycles. I was supposed to show a map here, but I don't think it's go. I will try to click this, see what's happened. Oh. See now we can. No, okay. It was from a brochure. It's a small map, but you can see all the green lines here are for the bicycle. But it's very small here. But some of the green lines are with the signposted path, and some of them are just on the main roads. We should have bigger here, but it's not possible. So I go back. Can you see the presentation again?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Marketing cycling in Åland. It's like I said, it's included in the outdoor life concept with different kinds of outdoor activities. On our website, we have mainly information, tips on roads, good to know. A lot of information when you're planning your bicycle to Åland. But when it comes to packages, it's through the ferry companies and travel agents. And there are not so many of them, actually. It's pretty general if you want to go the north, the south, the east route, but it's nothing thematic or something. So there it's things to do, actually. And I will show you the next. One trail that we have developed the last year is Åland Archipelago Trail. And that's combining the Archipelago Trail in Finland from Turku. Then you can go from main Åland to north and east and then you go around in Finland too. Let's see, we can show this one. Yes, like this. You see the map? Yes. And you can see the ferries going from up in north there is from Turku then, they're coming from Turku, and then along the north to the mainland and around mainland, and then go back to south with the ferries who go south there, Kökar on the way to the mainland back. So you can go around and then you can go in the Turku archipelago. So you can combining like a big archipelago tour, actually. So that's the way to. Oh, okay. Sorry. It's a challenge to share something else on that. Oh, I'll come back now. Sorry, I'm stuck here.
All right, no worries.
Let's see now if I try. Yeah, I try to come from this. How do you? Somebody has a tip.
If you just, is there a, if you put the mouse up in the middle, is there a cross appearing?
No, that's the problem.
Could you just press escape?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, I tried it earlier, but it didn't go. Thank you. So yes, this is the Archipelago Trail. Who has been there? We have information about on our website. Finally, like I said, some development and improvements. And I was thinking also about what Magda said about data. It should be very important for us to have some more data. Then it's also could be a priority to work and develop more of bicycle tourism. That we have been thinking, or we are talking about, is this theme cycling routes, about historic food and food routes and different kinds of culture, and combining this one to more interesting and more experience when you cycling on Åland. Also better map and marketing material. We have some, but it could be better. People asking after printed maps, actually pretty often in our tourist information, and also through mails and so on. Service, transport, or customers' baggage. It's nothing who exactly, one or two maybe does it, but it's not the service is working. And also off-season bike rentals. We see that the cyclists coming earlier in the spring and later in the fall. And it's not so many who has opened this, who renting mainly different kinds of bikes. And also we have increased, we have also that see that e-bikes, they're often asked after e-bikes more and more. And like I mentioned earlier, like bookable cycling package, something we have to work with. And also a deeper knowledge of the economic importance of bicycle tourism. That's a very important fact that we need to work with, and then we can maybe it's and also, like mentioned before, it's a very important tourism to work with when it concerns to the sustainable tourism. So that was thank you for your interest.
Thank you very much.
My short lines.
Yes, very good with the maps. Myself, I haven't been to Åland yet. I realized that I have to go soon, and it's good with the map. You realize that there are so many little islands and some middle big ones and the big ones. Yes. Thank you very much. And again, to the listeners, remember your questions, write them on a note and save them for a little bit later. And now I feel like a host, Eurovision host, we'll call to the next country, and we'll speak to Henna from Bikeland in Finland.
Yes, thank you. I wonder if I can just steal the screen from Camilla. I will try what happens.
Looked like it worked.
Yes, I will just put it on a big screen. So yes, thank you for the invite from my behalf as well. As Hugo said, I'm Henna from Finland, and I represent the Bikeland, also known as the Finnish Center for Cycling Tourism. So our goal is to develop the cycling tourism nationally in the whole Finland, and we coordinate the development work. Obviously, most of the route development has is done in the regions. So we just bring the information together and try to make it more accessible for the cycling tourists and who are interested to come to Finland for a cycling holiday and find some services related to cycling. Today I won't talk too much about Bikeland though. I will talk about the EuroVelo development we have been doing in the rural areas in Finland. We are also a national EuroVelo coordinator center in Finland. Thus, the EuroVelo development is one of the biggest tasks, and that has been just recently started. And our goal is to get all the 4 EuroVelo routes, basically 3 EuroVelo routes that go along Finland. You will in fact see them on this map. There's 3 that go along Finland, so we had a lot of EuroVelo routes going along here, and then there's a 4th one that in fact just crosses Finland briefly on the armbit of Finland. But you can find this map from bikeland.fi, which is our website. You can find a lot of other cycling routes from the website. From there, you can already download the EuroVelo GPX tracks as well. We don't have the information of the routes more in detail yet. That's what we are working on now. But I highly recommend having a look, and with the different color codes, you can find different type of cycling you're looking for, whether it's mountain biking, bike touring, bike packing, shorter local routes, or even winter trails. So go have a look. From that map, you can also find the Welcome Cyclist Services, which is a program we've been developing. We have had a big increase of the companies over the last couple months, and we're soon reaching 400 bike-friendly companies in Finland, which is great to see that we have been able to both, like together with the regions, to also get the service providers interested on the cycling tourism and realize the importance and the potential it has. But then let's hop on the sparsely populated areas, which we do have quite a bit in Finland. And this is what we've been focusing on this one. And since a lot of the EuroVelo route, especially the EuroVelo 13, we're focusing on this project. It's following the east side of Finland, or east of Finland, and the green areas are the sparsely populated areas or the rural areas of Finland. So we see that only the coast of Finland is more populated, but then once you go further up north or east or middle of Finland, there is big areas without, which obviously sets certain standards and like makes especially like making it hard to find enough services, and like how do you communicate to the cycling tourists like what they are going for so they have the right expectations before starting the trip. So this is something we have now been working on our EuroVelo 13 route development project. The project time has been from starting from January and it ends in September. So it's a like short project, which is also a lot like it's basically really related to what we do anyway. But this is focused on developing the certain part of the EuroVelo 10 and also to create a model and certain set of criteria for long distance cycling routes in the sparsely populated area. So there are certain guidelines what needs to be considered, and like especially we are reflecting here if we can meet the EuroVelo certification criteria on the routes that go mainly on the sparsely populated area. I will talk a bit more about that soon. Then we like test the criteria and like pilot it on the 550 kilometer long route or the long part of the EuroVelo 10, EuroVelo 13, which is then in the northern Finland. We will also create the route information and digital, especially focusing on the digital information of the route, since we don't have any of that available yet from the route. The goal is to also engage the service providers through the Welcome Cyclist program and get them involved and aware of the cycling routes in the area. And same time, great marketing material. This is the part of the route that we are focusing on now. So it starts from Salla and goes to Näätämö. So it's the eastern Lapland and northern Lapland in Finland. It is really beautiful area, but what makes it special area is obviously like there is not, like, between the towns there's not too much happening. What has been a positive note so far, though, the daily distances are quite reasonable, as we can see. And in these little towns, there's usually always some type of accommodation available and some kind of food available, which we were a bit worried beforehand that will it be possible to do this route so that it would really be reasonable for cyclists to do. And so far it looks really promising that this won't really be the problem, and this is one of the areas where we have least services. Maybe once you go more down there's same problems, but after having a look of the route and finding all the service providers along it, it looks that developing the cycling tourism in the rural areas is possible as well. But something that needs to be obviously considered is the route information, as I said earlier. So we obviously want to tell what makes the route special. What can you experience there? See, like, culture-wise, we have in fact a lot of culture both in Lapland and east of Finland. So how do we incorporate these stories into the route descriptions? Besides that, we want to be able to provide an overview map and a route map which shows the services, like where are all the important services for cyclists, both the welcome cyclist services as well as the other services that could be needed. That way it's a lot easier for the cycling tourists to see what is available instead of needing to have the route map and then another map or like Google Maps to like try to browse what services can be found and if there is any services, especially on rural areas. I think this is highly important to make it more accessible for the cycling tourists, because if there is no services available, they think that, okay, maybe there's not, and like especially international guests, it's quite hard to find information, since a lot of these companies might only have their websites in Finnish, and sometimes the opening hours and everything is not fully updated. Thus, it's important to really get all that necessary information in one place and as clearly as possible, and also include it into the route descriptions and describe like the daily distances and like from what accommodation you can use, what options do you have there. Can you find water along the way? Can you find food along the way? Or do you need to like buy some extra the previous day? So all these are kind of planned already for the cycling tourists instead of them needing to do it. Like most experienced cycle tourists won't have a problem with this, but if we want to make it accessible for a bigger audience, I think it is important. Besides the paper maps and the overview maps, we also recommend all the areas and all the different routes in Finland to have a downloadable GPS track. That way, the cycle tourist can download the GPS on her or his phone or device to navigate on the route, because this route is not yet signposted. This way we can make sure that people won't get lost, since with the paper maps it's not the easiest to always follow the track. It's a lot easier to follow it by following it on a phone navigation app or on the GPS device. So this way the downloadable GPS track is highly important on the route website as well. The website will be done in a similar way that we have created the Arctic Bicycle and South Bicycle bikepacking route websites. So there will be, you can head to, it's under the Bikeland, so you can head there directly. either arcticbicycle.com or through the Bikeland, and see what type of information we're collecting. This model has been adapted from bikepacking.com, and we will also be using it on this one. But then I will briefly talk about the quality criteria and what we see as parts, then the points that we need to adapt for the rural areas. I have just kind of done a quick summary, so I will try to keep on the time. The base for this is the European certification standards, and our goal is to, besides having this for the long distance cycling routes in the rural areas, also have it as a guideline for like other long distance cycling routes, like have a certain quality standards for them, since as we see the one on the right side, which is the Swedish one, we don't have anything similar in Finland yet, and that's something we have realized that would be really necessary and helpful for the regions developing the routes. So this will work as a baseline for these quality criteria as well. But what seems to be really critical points compared to the EuroVelo certification standard and the problems thinking that we would like to get the route certified at some point after we have been getting the signposts is definitely the public transportation. We have now adjusted the way it was, because there was supposed to be a minimum 4 or 6 buses day by day going that fits bike in, and that is, I think the public transportation is definitely the trickiest. So we have been adapting this, and we will be communicating these ones to ECF as well, and see if there is possibility to have any changes on these. But our goal is to definitely have the routes connected to the public transportation network. But then and there has to be possibility to transport your bike, and we left it there that there needs to be stops every 150 kilometers. But this is something we're still discussing a bit about. That is it necessary to have it that often, or what more like in rural areas could it be bit longer distances between the stops as well. What is important here again is the communication, so that it's clearly communicated how do you get to the route, like how often it is possible to get out of the route. So since we know that there is areas where it might be only once a day or even less the bus going, so that information is clearly presented on the website, so the cycling tourist can decide beforehand if it's something that suits her or him, or if it's not a route that she would like to then go on. Now we have a wrong number there, but then is the bike services, which was the other problematic, since there was supposed to be one bicycle repair shop, rental shop, a suitable store, or a self-service point on the daily stages, like every day. And this is really hard on the rural areas as well. We luckily have the welcome cyclist companies, which are quite well spread, and we have them all over Finland. So idea is that they accommodation services there have a basic tools and a foot pump, or the tire pump. So that way, once we have these companies, we could use them to provide the self-service point and the self-bike services along the route. And this way, it will be possible to meet the criteria related to bike services. Additional services where they were required on the certification criteria, but for us, and especially in rural areas, like before the number of tourists is big enough, it's quite tricky to plan a luggage transfer service for a long route like a EuroVelo 13 for the whole length of it. Thus, we have kind of just keep that as additional ones, and that they can be be developed once the route meets the other quality criteria around it. Other topics that we've been discussing about is the road surface and the traffic numbers. So on the EuroVelo, there's a requirement for a lot of the routes to preferably being asphalted or paved, and we have a lot of good quality gravel roads in Finland and unpaved roads. So being able to use those more for route development would be sometimes a better option, since the traffic numbers on these roads is a lot less than what it is on the paved roads. So this is something that is kind of like, which one do we focus on? Do we focus on the road surface to be paved, and then you have to possibly bike with a lot of cars? Or would it be better options to just go on unpaved roads for a bit longer distances and then have less traffic and a better experience and cycling experience in that sense? The other one is the road width and traffic. Since we don't have wide cycleways on the roads in the rural areas, which usually use the bigger roads, which are usually the traffic numbers are not the problem, except on the holiday seasons in some areas maybe. But most of the time the traffic numbers are quite reasonable, since we are more sparsely populated country. But then when you compare it with the speed and the width of the road, that makes it still quite dangerous, and often there might be trucks to take into consideration as well. So, and based on the discussion and the webinar we had around the subject, the traffic numbers and the accepted levels, the ECF suggested, they were considered too high for the Finnish roads, and since we have better options for the roads as well, especially if we would be using some of the unpaved roads as well. So this is something we are still working on, that finding a good balance between the traffic, the road width, and the pavement of the road. I think I'm reaching my time. Hopefully I didn't go 2 minutes over time, but I think questions were afterwards.
Yes, thank you, Henna.
Yeah.
Very nice. And for all of you listening, if you haven't visited bikeland.fi, you should afterwards. It's a beautiful homepage. Now we'll leave over to Jesper and from Danish Cykelturisme. Welcome, Jesper.
Thank you, Hugo, and thanks for having me. I will see if I can find my slides. They should be coming up to you now.
Yes, now we can see them.
Okay. Yeah, and thanks so far for some very interesting presentations. I will give a short presentation more about, say, the background behind the scenes, what we do in Danish cycling tourism, and how it became an organization after all. But then also talk a bit about cycling tourism in Denmark. What kinds of cycling tourists do we see? And then at the end, just a few examples of some of the projects we do. Well, the organization I'm heading is called Dansk Cykelturisme in Danish. And it was founded 8.5 years ago in October 2014. We are a private association of mainly public members. And our purpose is to develop cycling tourism and recreational cycling in Denmark, and to try to coordinate and create coherence between all the relevant initiatives we see around the country. Since 2016, we have been the National EuroVelo Coordination Center for Denmark, and I'm also a member of the EuroVelo Council. Yeah, we have 4 EuroVelo routes going through Denmark. The association has 30 members of this year, and we have 3 full-time employees and 1 intern. We're based in the central Copenhagen and are sharing the office with the Danish Cyclist Federation. So we are around 20 persons working with all aspects of cycling in central Copenhagen. Just a slide with our members. Most of them, as I said, are public entities. The majority are municipalities. And then we have nearly half of the tourist destinations in Denmark as members, and a handful of private companies also working in cycling tourism as members. Yeah, and then if we rewind to the background of the association, it was, as I said, is founded in 2014. A few years before that, there was a huge project going on in Denmark where I was the project manager. It was called Powered by Cycling Panorama, and it was focusing on 2 of the national routes. One of them going on the west coast of Denmark, and the other one, which is the Danish part of the very popular bicycle route between Copenhagen and Berlin. It was at that time maybe one of the biggest cycling tourism projects ever, with a 3 million euro budget over 3 years. It then ended up taking a bit more than 3 years, nearly 4 years. We had 6 partners, say, deeply involved in the project. And those 6 partners, they also became the founding fathers of Danish cycling tourism. And the story is quite simple. We sat together in the last, or one of the last steering committee meetings of the project, and we're thinking, okay, we have really done a big and a good project, and now are we just supposed to end the project and wait for the next project, or do we want to sort of keep things going? And then in Denmark, if we sit around a table and we have sort of, if we come up with a purpose, it's very easy to found an association. So that was what we did. It only took half a day, and then we had the association established, and we had a guarantee of the first project coming in 1st of January 2015. So I could, they could hire me as the first employee, and we set off with this one project, and then we have sort of grown a bit from 6 partners to 30 members, and from 1 smaller project, and now we run, at the moment we run 3 bigger projects, and we do some other work as well. This is just very brief about the structure of Denmark. We have the state, of course, very important stakeholder when it comes to cycling tourism, and it's separated into the road directorate and the nature entity, and then we have the Danish destination DMO, destination management organizations. We have 20 of them in total. They are always working cross municipal. And then we have 98 municipalities shown on the map. So that's sort of the official structure we have to deal with. The things we do advocacy, we do give input to policies, we write articles, we do presentations, and a lot of what we do is also sort of network and relations building. Then we do projects, come back to some of the projects later. And then we sort of by coincidence, I've gotten a bit into consultancy work. It wasn't planned, but after a few years mainly our members were approaching us, asking us for help, and then we sort of developed some services that we offer to not only to our members but also to other organizations. And we do maps, guidebooks. We also do cycling tourism strategies. We do a lot of route surveys, also with inspiration from, as Henna told, the European certification standard and also the German standards. Based on that, we develop sort of our own Danish standards. Yes, the funding, it's a private association, so we don't get any sort of constant state funding. We have the members, they pay a membership fee, that's around 10% of our budget. And then we have consultancy, which amounts to around 15% of our budget. And the main share comes from projects, 75%. In the beginning, it was 100% from projects. Now we have decreased the share a bit, but it's still a very agile organization because we're constantly looking for projects, but we're also sort of looking to stabilize our steady budget, not necessarily going on the state funding budget, but increasing our members would be one of the ways to increase this steady funding. Just a few facts on cycling tourism in Denmark, which is probably a bit different from what Henna just told about Finland. We're not that remotely populated. We have quite a bit of cycling tourists. If we look at the very overall figures, I'm sorry, it's still some old figures from 2017. We're waiting for the new ones. They should come anytime now from the Danish, the National Danish Tourist Organization. But they look at the motivation. Who put in cycling as a motivation for visiting Denmark? And every fifth tourist has cycling as one of the main motives for visiting Denmark. It doesn't mean that they are all cycling tourists in the German definition, as Magda told you about. It can also be that they are just staying on a campsite and then using the bike every other day. They would still be counted as a cycling tourist. We're very, very happy about the cycling tourists because they're good tourists. They're also very happy. We know that from insights. They spend quite a lot. They stay longer. They have a higher level of revisits as tourists, or compared to tourists who are not cycling in Denmark. And then the economic benefit is spread among many actors, which is also very interesting. And then also Magda was also talking about its sustainable tourism, health benefits, rural mobility, and things like that. It's also a good benefit. Sorry for the Danish text, but if we look at the German definition of the cycling tourism, only 7% would fall into that category. That's the people on the right hand of the slide, and then the majority are tourists who use the bicycle as one of the activities on their holiday. That's the main share. I will skip this one and then talk a bit about some of our projects. We have just a few months back launched a website for the national routes. It's found under ruter.dk. It's in Danish, English, and German. We present the 11 national routes at the moment. We're also the next step is to include the EuroVelo routes, the 4 EuroVelo routes, and then over time, including all other relevant routes. I don't have the correct number, but we have around 250 signposted cycling routes in Denmark. National routes, we know how many of the national routes we have around 150 regional routes, and then we have a uncertain number of local routes. And it's not everything we're going to present on the webpage, but the relevant and the good ones among these many routes. This is the project has ended, but it's ongoing development with this website. Please, just have a look at it if you plan a bicycle tour in Denmark. And then the very big project, it's a 3-year project. This is the last year of the project, but the story goes back nearly to the beginning of Danish cycling tourism, where we have sort of lobbied for this initiative, and it's about it's about developing a junction network in all of Denmark. A junction network is something they have had in the Netherlands and in Belgium for more than 20 years. It's also they are developing it in certain regions of France, and it's also coming to Germany. And what's a junction network? This is the island of Bornholm, which is part of the EuroVelo 10 route out in the Baltic Sea. And this is the network they have of today. There's a national route, which is also a EuroVelo route. That's the red one. And then they have some regional routes connecting the island. A junction network on the island of Bornholm would look, or could look like this. So it's a much more dense network. And instead of signposting routes from A to B or from A to A, all the junctions where you have a choice of going either left or right or straight, there's this the signposting, and you can see the examples of the signposting up on your right. So it's a much more flexible network where you can, or the cyclist can choose what route to follow, how far, what to visit on the way. This is, as I said, quite a big project, and it's, even though we end the project this year, it is something that will continue to have this. The plan is to have it roll out in all of Denmark within a time span of maybe 10 years. That would be twice as fast as it did it in the Netherlands, for example. Yeah, just at the end, just 7 takeaways from our experience. Good and safe infrastructure is a precondition for cycling tourism. If that's not made sure, then it's nearly all the other initiatives, it doesn't really matter. And then service facilities and bookable offers give access, Camilla, you were also talking about it, give access to a larger target group, because we need new cycling tourists all the time. If it's not communicated, it's not really there. And that's sadly enough been the case with many of the Danish routes for many years. They were signposted, they were out there, but no one really communicated them. And they were only then available for a very little audience. And if it's not counted, it doesn't count. We constantly need the economic figures of cycling tourism to convince stakeholders of investing in the field. Cycling tourists are not one of a kind, not in Denmark at least, and we have to match the offer to a very broad target group. Then, even if we work with digital tools, physical signposting, as far as I believe, and also that's also visible in the German analysis, still plays a very important role. And to me personally, it also makes cycling more enjoyable because you don't have to look at your telephone all the time. And then for many tourists, cycling is an activity on a holiday and not the only purpose. Of course, there are cycling tourists, and I'm really happy about that. We tend to see an increase in the sort of the classic cycling tourist again. It's with bike packing. It's become modern again among a younger generation. So that's really a good thing. But it's not the only form of cycling tourism, at least what we see in Denmark. So we also need to and the junction network is part of this strategy to have a good offer for the many tourists who just cycle on a holiday in Denmark. That was all I had for you.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. So now we will open up for questions, and we'll see if Jesper, can you exit?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. Sorry. Where is the button? Oh, I think I'm getting the stop share. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if the listeners have questions, please write them in the chat and we'll send them. I have a thing to start off with that is maybe for a few of the panelists to think about, and it was Henna who brought it up, and that was the gravel road versus the paved road. And as you said now, Jesper, with the different like trends coming and going within cycling, and we have the gravel cycle trend that is very big the last couple of years, and now the bike packing is also coming. More and more cycle tourists seek out the gravel, the more rural areas, to get away from maybe from the paved road. Is there a good maybe Henna, it's for you to answer. Have you found a good way to work with like the question around the gravel roads and how to work with to include them in the route system?
Yes, so the model we have been using, you probably also refer to getting permissions to use those roads. Partly. Yes. Yeah. So what my colleague basically developed the system is because with the everyman's rights, we have the freedom to roam in Finland, and thus everybody has the right to use those roads on their free time. But obviously, when it's a official route that we're directing people to, we have started using it's basically a letter sent to the landowners to notify them about what is happening, and like that the route will be like shared on the website, and like no signposts won't be put on the land itself, but there will be more people coming. And this has been this like process, and the model has been now approved like a lawyer from the municipalities federation and also from the road association. I'm not 100% sure that I get the right English names for these organizations, but basically it's been like discussed with them. And what we got feedback now, in fact, from the municipalities along the South by Cycle bikepacking route, and we had like asked like, has there been any problems with it? And so far not. Like, in fact, it's only been really positive feedback from the landowners. So far it's good. Obviously, like we also share how do you go there responsibly, and like certain guidelines to follow so that people respect the freedom they get and the freedom to use the roads. But basically, since it's mainly mountain biking, is quite different because you put some like kind of take the trail, or like put more like stress on the nature in a way, and you can shape up the nature a lot if you start riding some trails more. But on the gravel roads, rarely you can cause so much stress on the road with the bike that you would cause any harm to it, which then makes it possible to use them. But yeah, this is something obviously like we've been trying to like kind of find the official ministry or organization that we would get the, I don't know, in a way financial stamp for this way of working with it, but so far it's been good this way.
Okay, that's interesting. I was wondering that when you spoke, Camilla, on Åland, the access rights or allemansrätten, are people seeking their way outside the net of roads and the cycle paths to come down closer to the shoreline or something like that?
Yes, actually, it's not a problem for cyclists. It's more, we have seen the what do you call it? The camping vans, camping. They are looking for more closer to the nature and by the sea, and don't want to be on the camping site. Actually, with others, they want to be alone, lonely and quiet. So we haven't seen a problem for the bicycles. They often because the small road is very, in the countryside and nice to bicycle on, and so no, it's not a problem actually.
Okay.
Or not fair.
Henna.
Yeah, I can add to that as well, because I think by having these official routes, because in south of Finland there's like the gravel biking and bikepacking has been booming. So by having these official routes, I think in fact we can direct people a bit more out of certain routes, because once we were developing side-by-cycle route in Kirkkonummi, one of the municipalities close to Helsinki, they were really against of using any of the gravel roads in the area, because there had been previous problems of cyclists ending up on the wrong roads, on private roads, since there was nothing official that they could follow. So they just put something on the map and was like, yeah, this looks great, but it was a private road going through somebody's basically land, and he was, or in a worst case, to somebody's yard. So to avoid this kind of problems, I think it's good to have official routes to kind of direct people a bit more. And sorry, I can't turn my video on for some reason. There's like, I get a you can't start your video because the host has stopped it, so that's why I'm without a video. Okay,
I'll work on that. And maybe, sorry, could you read the question? There was a question in the chat for Henna.
Yes. Henna, did you ever got any negative feedback from landowners reacting by putting fences surrounding their land or this kind of thing after receiving your letter or acknowledging more cycling traffic?
No, we haven't been getting like after the letter, especially like nothing like that has happened afterwards. What was noticing on while we were like doing the route scouting for the South by Cycle route had been that there some landowners have put these unofficial traffic or signposts saying it's a private road and you can ride right through it no matter what. So these basically illegal signposts had been put in, but that was before the route had been done. And also we in a way respected these once we planned the route, since even though they weren't official. But if this was already the thing beforehand, it's not probably going to be the best positive outcome if we would put the route going through that road.
Okay, Jesper.
Yeah, it was just to follow up on the gravel discussion. Around a quarter of our national routes, they go on gravel, or they are not on paved surfaces, and I think that's completely okay. That's also one of the reasons why we didn't just adapt the German certification, because it tends to sort of put an emphasis on paved surfaces, and I think it has a quality that the surfaces are mixed. That gives this variety of surface that you travel upon. So I think that's perfectly okay to have gravel on national routes and also on EuroVelo routes. The access discussion, it's in Denmark, there's sort of the right of way on every road, also private roads. So a landowner can't, he or she needs a good reason for not giving right of way. But there's a tendency, it's been around for a few years, and I think we need to separate the gravel cyclist doing a bikepacking tour from the more sportive, the gravel cyclists going on day tours, probably going faster. And we sort of see the same thing we saw with mountain biking 20 years ago, before it was organized and they had single tracks. And we see conflicts between gravel cyclists going fast and private landowners. And I've just heard some stories about landowners putting sand on the roads to have them jump off their bikes. So that's maybe a different thing, but it's something we need to consider when working with developing the product.
Yeah. I've actually heard from some colleagues in Denmark that it's the same. Sometimes you can hear in Sweden along mountain bikers that those gravel riders, they give us bad reputations because the gravel riders riding very fast on the roads. I was thinking, and there was as Magda, some of your statistics on where people found information, and there was still like one quarter of the tourists found their information on printed maps and guidebooks, and how that and some of the others also spoke about it's still a sought after product to have a printed map, and is that on the other hand, we have the GPX files and the digital mapping, and I was wondering if you've thought about the different target groups between these types of mapping, and if there is some statistics on who uses what kind of mapping, and asking for what type of information to find their way. Yes, let's see. So me and Magda are in the same room, but we're trying not to get the weird sound.
Now it should work. Yeah, thank you. So I was also interested in this data, and as I said, the ones that I showed, this were the latest data that I found from our region, that was from Germany. And for me, the reason for having this diversity when it comes to data is because, well, not every tourist is alike, and they differ, they prefer different things. I think this is still important to actually have different types of maps, of even flyers about the route and the possibilities and the tourism attractions that you can see along the route. First, when you cycle, there are still some places in our area when you don't get an internet connection. So not everywhere an app is going to be handy, and not everywhere you can Google easily and see if you're maybe not like 5-7 kilometers, close to some fantastic cultural heritage attractions. So in this sense, it is important to still have something, that you can read, that you can put in your backpack and just take it out whenever needed. I know that beside like this regular signposting that you can find along the route, there are also sometimes those tourist spaces where you can rest, where you can when you can pause for a bit, and that's where you get also a lot of information with the map of all the current offer nearby and so on and so on. In Poland, in Pomorskie region, we've developed a lot of these kind of places within one of the recent projects on biking tourism, and they are very popular because there is an information there. It doesn't even have to be very interactive. Of course, it's very nice if it is, but you know, just simple info with information where you can eat, where you can head next, what you can see along the route, where you can sleep. This is important. So I would say, of course, when thinking about, for instance, new projects, and people constantly say, oh, we will deliver an app, we will deliver, you know, some IT solution. This is good because there is a great market for it. And of course, people, especially younger generation, that's obvious thing for them, and this will be even more important in the future. But there is still a large group that prefers to have a written regular leaflet. So I would say diversify, make one or two really interesting, you know, infoflets about the route and try to deliver them in any way possible, because this way you can actually reach out to any tourists. And as I said, they are not alike. They also prefer different things. So we should try to make sure that it's very inclusive and no one's left behind with it.
Thank you. I was wondering on the same topic, maybe for Henna and maybe Jesper, could there be a possible, if there are like landowners that don't want, could it be more sensitive to have your like if I own a piece of a road, to have that printed in something physical than if it's on a GPX file? Is the one like, could the physical map be more concrete and like be more of a of something that could irritate people, or maybe that's not? Do you get where I'm going at? I can't really.
Yeah, I understand what you're meaning. At least with it, I think there was something, I need to double check one from a colleague, but there were some problems with it, in fact, because he had an idea and plan to print it on a map, but then it came out that, oh, in fact, like it might not be possible, like some things change if you print it on the map. So from like, yeah, like that's why like we're like, I think you could do PROT type of maps, but like to exact route maps, I think that can change it up a bit. But I'm not sure that Jesper has more experience in that.
Yeah, I think from a legal point of view, it doesn't matter how the route is promoted, whether it's on a paper map, digital, or with physical signposting. And it's a good approach always, like you also do, Henna, to contact the landowners. Even though we have right of way, when we, or I would say we, it's normally the municipalities who develop routes. They would always contact the landowners to inform them about new route developments, to have them on board. And sometimes they even go so far as I don't know what it's called in English, but they do this statute that it is legally okay that the bicycle route goes via private land, and then with change of ownership, then it is in the statutes that the bicycle route should go there. Yeah, so it's always good to talk to private landowners, because what the best in Denmark, if the best roads, the most scenic roads, they often go on private land.
Very well. I think we'll have to round this off. I want to throw in one last question from Simon, and that is to all of the panelists. What's on top of your data about cycle tourism wish list? So, Jesper, would you like to start?
Yeah, it's one of on top of my list is where do they go? We can count at certain spots, but we don't really know about the many and the majority of cycling tourists in Denmark who stay in one destination and they just use the bicycle for activities. Where do they actually go? I would like to have a picture of that. Especially where do they stop and spend money? That would also be very good.
Yeah, Camilla, have you thought about this?
Yeah, I couldn't more agree what Jesper said, because like I said in my presentation, we have very little data about the bicyclists come to Åland and really what they do and what they want and want to see and also we would like to have data about like the kind of service they want, because we don't really know that. How then and if that concern how they plan their trip on Åland. So yeah, and also that Jesper said, yes, of course, that's very important.
Yeah. Is that, Magda, the same for you? Do you have another perspective?
Well, I guess I would add a little bit of this macro regional perspective here. In this sense, I would love to know if they travel cross-border from one country to another within our region. It would be great to know, because if there are tourists who take who cycle from Germany via Denmark to Sweden, then yes, this is the tourism that I would be very much interested in, to know where they start, where they had to, motivation, things like that. But to know that, it would be really great thing.
And last but not least, Henna.
Yes, I agree with with all of you, and like especially with Camilla. So in Finland and Åland, we're probably in the same boat that we don't have too much data. Still, for us to start even with the number of cyclists, we only get relevant numbers from a couple of the cycling routes. So to get the number of cyclists would be really great. More from all the routes basically, and then like what is the financial impact they have in the area, because this would then be really important numbers for discussing further and like trying to like improve the cycling tourism and show the impact it can have in the region. So basically we could start from the really basics.
Good. That's a good thing to agree on. We need more data on this. Thank you all the panelists very much for participating in this webinar, and thank you for all of you listening. We've recorded this and you will be able to find it on Cykelfrämjandet's webpage in a little while. Actually, we will continue work with biking around the Baltic in a new EU project. So that will start off this autumn. So there will be more seminars and more talks similar to this one, I think, in the future. So we'll stay in contact in different ways. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.